I was 7, I used to stay at my neighbor's house whenever my parents headed off to work. Their son, who was a teen at that time, raped me in his father's car. I told my mother about it when she got home. All she asked was whether I was bleeding or not. I ended up being messed up in life. I had complex PTSD and depression. My family didn't care. All they cared about was how it would be viewed by society. So you are forced to keep it all to yourself and deal with it alone.
I was also assaulted by my neighbor's son in Ethiopia when I was 3 or 4. And although I don't remember the assault, I remember telling my mom and her not doing anything about it. I think that scared me more. He was young at the time, like 13 or 14. I blame him for the shame I carried into my teenage years and my adulthood that sucked my self-esteem dry. My assault made me feel like I had no choice. I became an adult that says yes to everything, even when I wanted to say no.
When I was 5, my mom knew that I wanted to learn the alphabet, so she asked our neighbor, who was a nurse, to teach me. Her husband also tutored me. He was nice to me at first. He then asked if I wanted to learn something new one day. And he later raped me. Childhood sexual trauma slowly kills you. The chronic shame and self-blaming was unbearable. You wonder a lot about whether or not it was your fault. Did I mention suicidal thoughts?
At university, teachers would ask us to come to their office. They would touch us privately when we go or force us to offer sex for a good grade. It was a very common culture that most people knew about. These are married teachers who have a ring on their hand go under your skirt. It really affected the way I see men. I was bad at relationships, friendships, my job, you name it. My self-esteem and depression wouldn't let me be good at anything.
I was 4 when I was assaulted by my babysitter and her boyfriend. One day, my parents were so desperate for a babysitter that they just decided to drop me off at her house. When her boyfriend got home, she picked me up and took me to their bedroom, and they assaulted me together. My abuser silenced me. I was so afraid to speak out. The pain was killing me on the inside and I couldn't even do anything about it. I have no words to describe how much this affected me. It was like my soul was damaged forever.
I'm a female and was raped by a female older cousin when I was 5-7 years old. I honestly felt like I am the only one this has happened to. It made me think less of myself. It made all sorts of abuse acceptable, even self-abuse through drinking. I failed at friendships.
I am a 20-year-old male. The first time, I was at my homie's house when we were both around 18. I woke up to him touching me. He also started stroking me. I got up and I couldn't process what had happened. He tried telling me later that a blood brother of his did it to him as a child. It is sad that you watch the people who rape you go on with their lives. You still see them at family gatherings. You watch them get married and have multiple kids, while you are still struggling with all that they did to you.
I was also sexually assaulted. I was around 7 years old. It was the housekeeper. I didn't know what it meant at that time. As a man, I used to brag about it until I really understood what it was, and it was not okay. When I told my parents about that rape, they were outraged and I was taken to the hospital. After the hospital visit, they acted as if nothing happened. I wanted someone to talk to me. I wanted to understand what happened, and I wanted to know what to do next, but no one said a thing.
At my uncle's house, there was a big mattress that we all slept in together. My sisters, my uncles, my cousins, and I. One night, after everyone had gone to sleep, my older cousin started touching me. He started rubbing his hard self against me and unzipping my pants. In the bed that we all shared. I was 12 years old. The idea of pressing charges, or even coming out with your story, isn't supported by anyone. Not even your own family. The guy who raped me is married with kids, so people cared more about how that will affect him than me. So my own family silenced me by telling me not to say anything, forcing me to watch them as they protected my rapist over me.
When I was 6, my brother sexually assaulted me. One day, my drunk uncle touched me inappropriately, so I told my sister about it. She shared that our uncle had done the same to her. We told our parents recently, but they shrugged it off. The abuse really affected my education. I became depressed and started doing horribly in school and began gaining weight.
I was assaulted by a family friend whom we refer to as our uncle. He was 10 years older than me. It happened when we went to a wedding together in Ethiopia. It took 12 years for me to be able to open up about what happened and share it with my father. Yet all he could say was that it was part of God's plan. I hated myself for this for years, as if it were my fault. Thinking about my childhood is so painful. It honestly feels as though I'm reliving a nightmare.
My father sexually assaulted my sister and I for years, both as children and young adults. When we finally had the courage to confront him about it, without hesitation or remorse, he simply said, "It's common." It's common? It's hard to imagine how such an experience can completely alter your thought process, basically forcing you to deal with things in a manner in which you normally never would. This underscores how emotionally and mentally damaging sexual assault truly is. Its effects most often lasting for years on end.